I sent demos so many times in my life, and it was never been complicated or more complicated than nowadays, and it
Yeah.
sucks so hard. So I'm really curious what
Andreas,
Trackstack has
do
to
you
say.
know what? I think I've been using TrackStack recently,
Yeah,
and it has solved a lot of those issues on both ends, right?
yeah.
So also receiving is fantastic. I won't go into it because I don't work for the company, but Luke can back me up on that one, man. It's amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
Game changer, really, actually.
Yeah, guys, I would say, I mean, everything
Let's
is
start.
recorded. Let's jump into the whole thing, and whoever logs in later, or the people that are there is people working on Monday mornings, I heard, and and everyone else can catch up later. Yeah, Luke, over to
Let's
you.
do that. Let's do it. Yeah. So I haven't prepared anything for this. I prefer just to like have a conversation. I think the best kind of flow for this is we just kind of address the common pain points I think all of us as artists have, and then just talk amongst ourselves. And I can share the kind of insights I've accumulated over the last, I'd say, maybe 3 to 4 years working in Trackstack. So just about who I am. I'm the head of marketing for Trackstack. All the collaborations on our Instagram or social media has been I've been the one that's outreached for that. So all the Ask an A&R collaborations, all the 4x4 collaborations. So Ask an A&R is our Ask an A&R series where we speak to A&Rs, ask them 3 questions, 3 answers. And then 4x4 is a interview series where we interview artists or DJs, and then 4 questions, 4 answers. So yeah, over the last, I'd say 3 to 4 years, I've spoke to pretty much the majority of the major artists and A&R or label A&Rs on Trackstack. And in regards to this conversation with labels, there is common themes that people like keep coming back to, as like common answers that people keep saying. So we'll talk about that, the label or the A&R perspective, but I'm also going to share the kind of our track stack ethos, kind of long-term positioning prescription that we have for artists, and that would be what I would say is the DIY approach. So I missed the guy's name. I was just talking then to Timo, but he was it Nicholas?
Andreas.
Andrea, sorry. Andrea said a problem then where it was like, I'm sending out demos or I don't know like how to get these demos signed. That is a problem, but there's 2 sides of the coin. There's the, send demos out, get signed, the traditional approach, which still is applicable. But now with everything we've learned from speaking to artists and DJs, the other side of this is the DIY approach, which is just do it yourself, which is obviously more work, and it takes a lot of courage to just put yourself out there and keep just putting out. It'll take longer. No one's gonna care for a while, but we've seen plenty of people that have been utilizing social media, utilizing personal brands, utilizing their network, utilizing in their own parties, just all these inputs over and over and over to the point where they just release their own music and it just has attention going to it. So yeah, we'll talk about both of those things during this conversation. So, what would you say is the main pain point that any artist on this call is kind of dealing with when it comes to sending music to labels and getting signed? Feel free to chime in, anyone.
I mean, Andreas, I can
Yeah.
see is unmuting.
I'm just doing this in advance because it's so complicated with the phone here. Anyway, well, back in the days, we are running record labels by ourselves. Mrs. Elizabeth Jansen here in the chat, that's my beautiful wife, by the way. We are also running some record labels, and we also know the other side. And when we get demos, we also like what you just said, like to have like a bit more personal contact with the artist. It's not just signing music, you're signing an artist, you're signing a person with an image, with, everything, and when this artist, for example, don't even have press pics, then, where should this go? Stuff like this. That's absolutely understandable. Sorry?
I think that's somebody on
Don't
the
worry,
phone.
it was
Laurent's
somebody
on
on the
the phone. I
phone.
think we
We
can
muted.
hear him.
Yeah. Okay, and this is like, of course, where I signed most of my music. There's a personal contact already,
Yeah.
and what always helped me is like to get in touch with the label or the label head or whoever first before sending just in music.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, are you open for new records right now? Are you open for music? Do you have a slot? Blah blah blah. Can I send you music? Just to get in touch first. That helped me a lot. But also, this is not working anymore because everybody gets so many emails, so many stuff. I tried Trackstack a couple of times to send out music. Sometimes I also got an answer. But yeah, it's complicated. It's super frustrating. It's like, wow. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
I was
sorry.
just realizing I was just I think I have at the moment just acute problem Monday morning. I have like 4 different projects. No, one is signed now, but I got like 3 different projects, like strong projects also.
Mhm.
I'm sitting here like everyone else also. What do I do with that? It's like, rather on the higher end of quality of the whole thing, but it's so difficult because also me, I live in my bubble. I do very similar things like you, Andreas. So obviously, check with personal context, which there's a lot of them, but it's still a bubble. And I mean, I appreciate the theoretical possibilities of what Trackstack can offer. I mean, this is why we also collaborate, and this is why we're also keen in like working this like out on a professional and on a professional basis and so on and so on. But I mean, it's an everyday problem for me as well. And even though I'm more than 30 years in the business. Andreas, we have to talk then. I have to pay the other stuff also. Maybe you have some contacts. Yeah.
We can suffer together. Yeah.
Exactly. So Luke, yeah.
Yeah, I would say obviously it's incredibly subjective. The music industry is subjective. So, I mean, depending on what you're producing, if like, so Trackstack initially kind of came about with in more of the tech house scene. That is where we've kind of dominated the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years. So part of our growth as well this year is also trying to expand into different genres, just because that's going to obviously facilitate everybody else. So if you are making a genre of music or dance music that isn't as like just more underground, we can say, in terms of what is on Trackstack, you can still go on there. And I would recommend for any aspiring artist to still go on there and send music to the just to send music to anybody to get signals. I think one of the biggest problems we have as artists is we just spend so much time living in our own head, just making and just thinking that it's just, like it's shit just because no one liked it or because you haven't sent it to anyone. But Trackstack gives you that opportunity to just send out at scale and then just get some positive signals. And even if someone wants to like it or wants to sign it, and you think, I'm not really sure if this label's the right fit, you've still got that positive feedback loop. So you can use that positive signal to the next step if you are trying to send to labels and DJs that are not on Trackstack. I would say that probably the next step for that would be there's obviously the direct approach where you can just focus on building a relationship with the person or the A&Rs that you're trying to send to. So you could obviously try to find them on LinkedIn, you could try to find them on Instagram, try to find them on Facebook. And instead of just sending them a cold DM, it's always best, and this has always worked for myself, is to try and just create a connection with them by providing value. So you can just connect with them on Instagram, for example. Let's say it's the A&R of a techno label you want to send to. And just give them an olive branch, give them a compliment, just give them a piece of value, give them some feedback, say, oh, I really like this recent signing on your label. I've just bought it, send them a screenshot of the Beatport thing. Just show that you're not a weirdo, because that's what most people are very entitled and they have huge expectations and they're very selfish. If you just slowly, incrementally, just provide little pieces of value where it shows that you're a normal person, and after you've done that a handful of times, you can then say like, yo, do you know what? I made this and I really love your label and like, I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Like, here's a link. Like if you've already built that, if you've already warmed them up on the front end, there's going to be more of a chance to getting that, getting that listen from them. Obviously, if you send a cold email, like which is what we've done for the last 20, 30 years, which has just been ran into oblivion, you're not gonna have much luck. You can try, but the beautiful thing with social media, and I know obviously nobody wants to have to invest into social media, but at the end of the day, it's a tool that can be used on your tool belt. And making a profile that makes you like positions you as someone that is normal, someone that is in the scene, someone that has connections, someone that has a profile picture, someone that has, you know, pictures of you in the studio, pictures of you having a life, videos of you making music, just like a well curated Instagram account. If a label or an A&R sees that and sees that you've been warming them up, you're gonna have a way higher chance of getting a reply, because that's all we want here is to be seen, to get a reply, and eventually get listened to. That's the journey. But if you're just going in cold, like listen to my track, like that's very selfish. Do you know what I mean? Like people that's what everyone else is doing as well. We need to differentiate ourselves. Um, but yeah, I'd be interested to hear from Dan and Timo on this, because obviously, as guys in your position, you would have a lot of people reaching out to you and have had people reaching out to you. So I'd be interested to hear from both of you. When have you listened to someone? When have you given someone a chance? And when have you been turned off and not given someone a chance?
I mean, I can start. I mean, it's like I actually, how long do I have my trackstack account now? 3, 4 weeks or so. So in all honesty, only just started. Uh, got a good amount of tracks that were already sent, and I have to say, I picked already someone there where I think, wow, this is a super outstanding talent and so on. And this person just approached me with rather a little mini bio that, there is a profile, a little mini bio, and then also says, I don't know if, but I'm rather, a bit more experimental and so on. And I'm a quirky person. So this is something that kind of like, this is already a better approach than, hey, I'm doing, I'm doing melodic house, or I'm doing like, tech house or anything like that. Someone who already is kind of putting them into a frame. I'm most curious about people where I see a little bit more of like background information, and obviously the music counts. And I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard a whole bunch of things. I have to say, our very own Harry here from Trackstack, he
Yeah.
sent me one of the best demos, really, in the past weeks. Not taking too much of a party, but the track he sent me fucking rocks, and played it in every set since I have it, and so on. So there is, I mean, I'm listening to everything. Let's say it like that. I'm listening to everything. I see also there's a bunch of labels, that send me their standard promotion. Yeah, so standard promo tracks, basically. Usually this is not so interesting for me, as so far. It's all relatively framed, relatively predictable, just from what they already write in their text and so on and so on. And there's a promo for them. Okay, fine. But yeah, I love to search, and as I say, in these few weeks, I found, in my opinion, a huge talent already. And this motherfucker doesn't come back to me. I wrote him 2 times already, and he's just not coming back to me. I said, "Hey, dude, I have to
I'll give
talk to
you
you. Though we have this Suru thing going on, and it's like we have to talk." But he didn't come back to me. But I don't give up on things, because when I love something, I never give
yeah.
up. I,
No.
I bite myself into the leg until they reply. It's like, but yeah, that's my little, very brief experience from the past weeks, really. So it really depends. I mean, what you said, it's like when there's a profile, no profile picture, here's my latest promo. Of course, the appeal is there a lot, lower than, anything
Yeah.
else, really. Dan, how is
Yeah.
it for you?
Yeah, for me, I think the thing that really gets me is consistency, and
Mhm.
the music talks for me actually more than anything. Is if I receive a number of tracks, I'm much more likely to understand the story and the journey the artist is on, which I think sometimes really challenges me in A&R. Is there's one great track and there's three that don't really match the label at all, or that puts me in a situation where I doubt that the artist will probably be correct, because I can start to see their vision in general. And what I love is to receive a set of tracks that bring a much clearer picture to where that person is sonically or what their mission is. And what really upsets me is when I receive music that is completely irrelevant to my background. And, like, I just think how this person hasn't done any research, doesn't have a clue what label this is. They don't have a clue what artist I am. And I think, what is the point in that? And I'm the same. If I send demos, I'm definitely going to pinpoint the people that I think it might be relevant for. I'm going to create music, sit down with Pig together and say, right, that's really going to work, could work on Rekids or I don't know, drum code, defected, whatever it is. We really write a very huge variety of music, so we need to pinpoint our directions clearly. And I think it frustrates me sometimes that I receive music that's completely irrelevant because you're like, what are we getting from this? But if you're going to send a label music, I'm always a big fan of having more than two tracks or more than one track, ideally three, four, five tracks.
I just wanted
Then
to ask you, what is the maximum for me? Everything that goes beyond, let's say, 4 or 5 tracks goes
Yeah.
changes from like having fun and listening to music to having to listen to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like for me, I would say, I mean, sometimes I get demos like 20. And then usually this annoys me when I get too much, or when I get too many, because like in reality, if you really want to pay attention to all of these tracks, it's like maximum 4 or 5, and then the attention span just falls down. Or you have someone like, for example, Andreas is a good example, or you have someone, you step through and say, fuck, this is amazing. And then next one, fuck, this is amazing. Then
that's
you
it.
want the 15, but it's rather rare that a situation like that is there. So
But it
overloading,
happens. It happens,
Yeah,
Timo.
yeah.
Sometimes you get an artist and you think, wow, there's two really strong EPs there. There's two strong
Yeah.
releases. But I agree that I think the magic number is probably 4 or 5 because it gives you a really clear insight and doesn't kill the person who's listening to it, but maybe makes you want to listen to more, right? So you're like, wow, those 4 tracks or there were 3 tracks out of those 5 that were just bang on. Have you got anything else?
I remember
You've
this one
went.
guy years ago for my Rockets and Ponies label. He was like sending me a list of, what was it, like 22 tracks or something like that. And before I was even listening, I was sending him an email and said, how you dare sending me so much music? What do you think I do all day long? I didn't listen to anything at all. And I was kind of insulting him even. I was like really pissed off from that.
Timo.
And then I started listening to the music. And you have no idea how quickly I was sending an email of excuse, because from this fucking 22 tracks, 20 were amazing. And later on, I was signing, I think, 6 of them.
So listen first. Here's the good.
Yeah.
Here's the,
I mean, it's
Timo.
like, I give the rules, and then I'm even, it's like, of course, I'm not perfect too. But this guy surprised me then. It's like, sometimes you have this, and this guy completely surprised me. It's amazing. And he still says,
Okay, so what's the magic number, Timo? Is it 4, 5?
Yeah, 4, 5 max. Still 4, 5 max. And when someone is really coming there with, with a cool fucking album, send me 15 when it's a cool fucking album. I mean, but in the end of the day, attention span, reality of that, all the time, 4, 5, I would say, is a good number. It's enough
Great number.
to get a profile, an
Yeah.
idea of what this person is, much more than like 1, 2 or something like that. So you have an idea, but it's not overloading. So it's like, I can pay full attention to this amount of tracks. That's how I do it.
The number that we kind of prescribe will the kind of gist that I kind of recommend is we it's easy for you two to say that, because I would say that you guys are very
Prolific.
when you just care about the music and you're very
Oh, right.
invested
Yeah,
in what
we
you
actually
do.
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
true.
You have to realize that unfortunately there are a lot of people that don't have that same, and you care about the music, but you also respect the music. You respect the fact that someone sent you music. You have to realize I would say you are the anomaly. There's 90% of the people that are receiving and sending for the, I'd say like maybe three quarters are seeing it as a commodity. So like the problem that we have is if we bulk send, and we've seen this where people that send maybe 4 or 5 tracks at a time, you may run into, if they listen to two of them and they don't like them, they probably just skip the other three. And that has happened before plenty of times. We've seen it with
Yeah,
labels.
I
We've
don't
had,
do that.
yeah, we've
I
had
don't do
complaints.
that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You
Never
guys
do
have
it.
you have souls. So like people don't, but they just like, we've seen it. We've had complaints at tracks like before where people are like, um, people decline the audacity of some labels declining tracks when they've not even listened to them. And
No,
you can
and that
see the
happens a
point.
lot.
Bro, it happens way more than you think. And I'll tell you, we
But
had
this
a
shouldn't be our industry, Luke. Our
yeah,
industry it should be built on passion and art. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna be I really put my foot down on this. Then this is why our industry is saturated because it's
100%.
full of crap. Not all of it, but there's so much saturation in this industry
Yeah,
on all sides of it, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but to find the diamonds gets
yeah,
harder and harder and harder
yeah,
because of that. Because of that
yeah.
very point.
We had another complaint recently where, and I'm saying this to anybody on this call that is like wanting to learn about the demo sending processes. And the reason why I'm telling you these issues is because you also need to manage your expectations when you go into this. Like, it's all well and good just thinking like, I'm going to get signed and I'm going to send my music out, and then someone listens to a second of it. Like, so back in October 2023, I spoke to Cam and asked him to put like um a play point on the waveform where when someone listened to the track, we can see where it was listened to.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so like just to give me some like sanity when I could see if something was declined, I could see what part of the story they listened to. Obviously, if you've invested so much time into creating a story that climaxes at like 3 to 4 minutes and you've listened to minute two, like you can give yourself that peace of mind, like, okay, they listened to 3 seconds in the beginning, they didn't listen to this, so I understand that it's not that shit. And they did that, they executed on it, and we got so much drama, like so much, because what was happening, obviously these labels are receiving thousands of tracks a month, and the conversion rate is very low. That's just also an expectation I'll give you. Like it's just how it is. If you're going to send 10 tracks, probably maybe one or two of them might get signed. That's just how it is now, especially if it's a high volume niche genre. So a lot of these big DJs and producers, label owners, A&Rs, they're pretty much like scanning through tracks. Like they'll play a set, they'll play, 4 bars, or sorry, a bar, maybe just
Yeah.
literally a second or two. Not feeling it, decline.
Skip through it.
So people can see that. Oh wow, they listened to a second of my track. Someone made an Instagram reel just kicking off over that, basically, just talking about the fact that, this big prolific DJ producer, I won't say his name, declined one of his tracks, and he could see that 1 second or 2 seconds was listened to of the track. And there's two sides to this. Obviously, the only reason why trackstack exists is because we're facilitating the problem of DJs and producers receiving huge volumes of music to be able to sift through it quickly. Because if trackstack didn't exist, you tried to go through 4,000 demos on email, you're going to be here for about 4 years. So trackstar makes it faster, but then on the flip side, obviously it's just getting you get listening fatigue, which is something that
Of
I
course.
never realized. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think also this is why our partnership is so important because Suru's set on helping people make the quality of music that will
Yeah,
be more likely to be listened to and signed. Not not because we're claiming we can make it better. We can't, but what we can do is we can offer a community that give each other constructive feedback and tools to help an artist become the best version of themselves to then go to Trackstack, go through the system. And it would be even interesting and down the line, I think, after after we've been working together for some time, is to see how that converts. You know, if actually you actually had like a little tag at the bottom of the demo that says went through Suru or something like this. It'd be interesting to know if
Mm.
that helped artists actually expand more and therefore become more likely to result with some kind of potential result, i.e. a release or
Yeah.
positive feedback or
Yeah.
listening longer than 1 second to the
Well, I
track. I
think
mean,
it's what you're saying. I think what Siri really does well is like you're kind of helping, fix the inner world of the producer, which there's nobody in the space doing that. And the reason like why a lot of people churn on trackstack within 3 to 6 months is because they just give up and they realize that there's not a lot of positive signals. If you get declined, that's a positive signal.
it
Because
is. It
before
is.
trackstack, you would literally get ghost denied. Imagine just going
Yeah.
up to someone and you introduce yourself and they just ignore you and just walk off.
Yeah.
Like that's soul destroying. It's the same. You send an email and then you just get ghosted. It's like, did they listen to it? Did they not? Like, am I shit? Is the music shit? Like, did they like it? Can I send it to other people? So you getting declined is a gift. And then not getting in your head when you get declined is also the next step. And I think what Suru is, what you guys are working on is trying to help give artists the tools to be able to stay in for the long haul, which is what this game is. It's not, a year, 2 years, send a few tracks, you're a superstar. It's, 10 to 20, it's a decade plus at most, at least. So, yeah, I don't know if you guys have any like,
Empowerment,
yeah,
encouragement, empowerment, motivation. These things are key when you're an artist because you live, it's the classic saying, Timo, the bubble. We all live in our bubbles all over the world and we're unsure about what we do and we don't feel confident about it.
And
And is it crap?
it doesn't matter if we're experienced or famous
No,
or if we're beginners or
no,
if we're whatever. We're all basically on the same sheet of paper. We're all in the
shitting
same
ourselves.
boat, and all together, this is what we experience. Most importantly, in the since we do the beta group that's has been built up since 2 years now. It's the community is the key. The feedback is the key. It's like having not just like your homies like clapping. It's like
Tune.
getting tune, yeah, getting like constructive feedback. It's like nerding a little bit around and so on and so on. And you have a community of people where you can ask these nerdy questions and all that, and this is really really encouraging. I mean, we're watching that. Dan and I were watching that since a while already, and we work with let's say unknown people, medium known people, and very known people too. But in the end of the day, as I said, I have a whole bunch of, I think, in my opinion, high quality productions. But I'm here and very carefully listening to what you say, Luke, because as I say, it's a everyday situation
yeah.
too. I mean, Andreas, I mean, it's like he said, I mean, as if I would have an active label, I would have probably signed 2 EPs already from that. I don't at the moment, but it's like, I just say it. I mean, it's like, really appreciate that and so on and so on. And but Andreas has the same situation with more than 1,000 tracks released and remixes released under a myriad of different names and so on and so on. It's like, all the experiences there, all the skills are there, the connections are there, people know and rate. Always good example.
Respect.
Rate him, the glitz and so on is like something super fucking cool and so on. But it's an everyday thing. There's a whole bunch of there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of fantastic music, but it needs to be directed in the right direction.
Maybe we
Did
just
you want to
getting.
say something, Luke? Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt.
Always there.
Andreas, what did you want to say?
I just want to say maybe we are just getting lazy as well, or comfortable, or something like this. Because I feel it. I really feel that it's so frustrating that I'm not even starting the process of sending out demos anymore. And this is why I'm sitting on so many tracks. So because like it's frustrating because you send out stuff to people you even know or labels you already released on, and you don't even get an answer back.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
the A&R, you know the label manager, and you know the dude running the label, and nobody gets back to you.
Yeah.
Even if you just had a record there like last year maybe. And this is like, because like you said, it's so oversaturated that nobody's maybe even reading emails anymore. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I've
saw
got a
a
good point on this though, which I think we all forget is that a label has a maximum output, right? So if you think about, let's say one per month, maybe two, right? If they're really pushing it, they're going to do a weekly output. Let's stick with this mathematically. If you do two a month, you've got 24 releases a year. You've already got a lot of artists who regularly output on your label, right? And those artists do not want to be pushed aside. I've been there a million times where I'm like, okay, they're putting out loads of new artists, but when do I get to put out my release? I've already put out 10 releases on your label. Why are you putting me to the side? So there's that kind of it's not a hierarchy, but it's like your regular artists on your label. Oh, thank you for that. I'll have a bit of confetti. The regular artists on your label are always clucking to give you their next release, right? So mathematically, let's say you're doing one every 2 weeks. 12 of those releases a year are already taken because you've got a regular artist or group of artists, and then you've got 12 others to give out to potential new people. Well, you're receiving 1,000 emails, and you've already signed the tracks for the year. You don't want to listen to any more or read any more emails or respond to any more emails, even though you bloody well should. As an artist and as a human, you should say, hey, look, I'm really sorry, the release schedule's full this year. If you want, we can talk about February next year, but your track's probably going to be considered old by that moment. So we're restricted
Yeah. But would you feel
by.
better if you get ghosted by the label owner, or if
Oh
you
no,
get
I
the
think
message
it's
from
I've been
Trackstack that
ghosted recently. I've been ghosted by a label that we put a lot of releases on, and I was like, "What?" You know
so? But what
that
when you send it via Trackstack now and you see that the A&R listens for 1 second and don't even get back to you? That's even harder, right?
well,
But
yeah.
that's a big debate, right? That's something to be debatable. And Luke, it would almost be cool if on Trackstat you had like a minimum.
Yeah, the thing is, we did like so when that issue happened, we did like go in the team chat and go back and forth. But it's the same concept as like imagine if I sent an email and I was like, please read and reply to my email. You're not allowed to leave this email thread unless you read and reply it. Like it's just absurd. And that's just the world we live in. Like at the end of the day, like it's heavily market, it's just heavily saturated, it's heavily sophisticated. And the ecosystem's changed. Like everyone on this call is from probably a specific generation, and unfortunately, the generation has changed. And in terms of marketing yourself now, the marketing is different to what it was 20, 30 years ago. And then obviously that is hard to accept, but a lot of A&Rs now are not just prioritizing email and track stack. I think Warner, I'm pretty sure I saw Warner or Sony, like they literally just sign stuff off TikTok if it's got an audience, if it's got a like demand. And that's unfortunately the way it is. There's a guy, he makes I think UKG, his name's Cool Badge or something Badge. This from guy from London. And he literally just stood in his kitchen, just cooking and showing his tracks every single day. Just not even being weird, not dancing, just literally cooking in his kitchen, like a nice view. And then he just put his tunes over it. And now he's blew up and he's a star. He's playing touring all over the world. Yeah, and the thing is, when a label sees that, they're like, yeah, I'll sign it. They'll just reschedule all the tracks that they have in the pipeline. We'll sign that right now because it's got demand behind it. And that's unfortunately the way that it is now. That's when I said the DIY approach, that is what that is. And
It
we can
is,
talk about
Luke.
second.
Luke, it is, but it doesn't mean we can't change it. And I can tell you
Yeah,
right now, that is something we've been focused on for years, and we are really working on that concept. And it's not something we can bring up now, but I think it's time to slightly add some waves into an industry that has put the artist last. Really,
yeah,
artistry has become the last focus on in an industry that was built by artists. And I think
sure.
it's time to disrupt how that looks. And there are ways of doing it. It was very hard to figure out how we do it and what the potential ways of making that a success. But we've got plans, and I think with the ethos and the ethics that TrackStack share with us, I think we can make quite a big difference. As even if it's a small difference, it might trigger a big difference down the
Yeah,
line. It might have a knock-on effect where other companies are like, "Oh, we got to do something about it because they're actually succeeding in making
yeah,
artistry a priority."
yeah. There
Can
needs to be a shift. Yeah,
I'm
go for it.
curious. Sorry, I'm curious if anybody here in the community has some questions that popped up, perhaps. Anyone from, yeah, who's watching?
I think Laurent's stuck. No, he's not.
Oh,
He moved.
yeah.
Laurent, Elizabeth, Catherine, Rick, anybody here? Zoid, Sinclair, do you have any questions? Because Sinclair has great questions usually. I think he's not with
Laurent,
us at the moment.
we can't hear you though.
We can't hear you, Mike, Laurent.
No.
Unmuted. It might be the
I think your audio settings. No, we
yeah.
can't hear you, man.
If anything, then the chat, maybe you can type it in, but of course would be.
Yeah.
It's a shame because I can't find a way to raise your hand here.
Oh, really? I can
Is there a
see.
way to raise your hand in Zoom? Because I think
Yeah, yeah.
I
Laurent, we can't hear you still.
if you want to write your question, Laurent, in the chat, then we can respond to it.
Yeah.
I don't have a question, but I think it's very interesting to hear all the talking points from artists and label perspectives, as many in the chat room have both. I was just thinking about it now the whole time while listening to you. That's of course a big part of sending demos and also receiving demos as a label is that it's just time. If you do it yourself and you have to search out all the addresses and write the mails and upload the tracks to if it's SoundCloud or Dropbox or whatever, and send it out and then wait, and then you wait and you wait. And from a label perspective, I mean, we also have the tendency to say, okay, maybe once every 3 months we collect all the demos and then we listen to them, and we have this kind of note on our webpage of Snowy, of the label that I run with Andreas, and it says we will only reply if we want the track. So from our side too, there are of course a lot of artists who are walking around wondering if they if they ever will hear from us. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting to have it from both sides, and I think from what I can hear, trackstack is like somewhat a solution on both ends for that.
Yeah, I mean, one of our biggest things is we just really encourage people to not just rely on labels. Like we see the conversion rates, we see the amount of tracks getting sent, and we see the percent that gets signed. It's very low. So that means that like it'd just be naive to just sit there and rely on one path. Like, if you believe in the music that you're making and you really give a shit about your career and in your future and the music you're making, like it's your responsibility to put that music everywhere, not just sending it to one label. You need to make sure you're putting it everywhere. You need to think of all the different channels. You need to try and have like as many irons in the fire as you possibly can and just consistently just do that at scale. That's all you can do. Like if you just be like, I'm going to send a track to this label and just sit there just waiting, that's it's not going to work. It might have been able to work back in the day, but like times have changed. Production's way more accessible nowadays. The quality of productions has just dropped. AI has just, created a lot of fluff. It's yeah, people are buying into people now. That's another thing I'd like to add as well. It's something I've been kind of working on in my own journey. Nowadays, with this huge influx of music, the way that one of the ways you can differentiate yourself is by, allowing people to invest into you as an artist, like allowing people to connect through your music through you. That obviously requires you to put yourself out there. You're gonna have to, share behind the scenes, make some content, and obviously you don't want to have to make content. No one wants to have to sit there and make content, but unfortunately, that's just the way it is now. Like it's just to compare. Yeah, go for it, Dan.
I think there's, you're talking about this in a semi-negative light, but there is a positive, I think, about this whole scene right now being oversaturated with lower quality art, if you like. It means that we have to give a shit. Like we've got to kick ass. If you want to be a good artist, you've got to be a really good artist, and you got to stick out. And I think Timo is the master of motivation in that department for saying, hey, the track's great, but it's not outstanding. And if you're outstanding, that's when people really pay attention, whether it's A&R, whether it's people on social media. So I think let's start at the root. The
Yeah,
root
yeah,
is make music that's really yours, your perception of what it should be. Make it even better than you thought you could make it, and then it should resonate eventually with labels and people. That's my opinion. I come from the old school, but I really truly have seen that work. Is It's about what you're putting in front of the A&R. It's about what you're putting on social media.
yeah,
It's about sticking out from all that tosh, which is a very English word, but average is not good enough anymore because there's a billion average,
yeah,
a
Good is
billion,
not even good enough. Good is not even good enough.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like
so
you have to
it
make the,
is
you know.
I
it's
could s-
about sticking out, man. And Catherine, you just mentioned something. Do you want to
Thank
voice what you were saying, Catherine? Because I actually didn't read it. I was too busy listening to Luke.
you. I think Rick what got his hand up as well after
yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah, just was thinking about the whole topic, and it's kind of similar everywhere, like the DJ market or producer and music whole situation. It's like so many people want to have a really huge success and want to be famous or I don't know what, but they don't want to put some more effort in it and to be continuously in everything. It's like the kind of a mindset to have, okay, I have to be better. I'm not good enough at that state, then I have to improve it, my skills or my communication or my social media or something. But they are just coming to the market and want to have everything, and this is kind of this topic with ego or to think I'm the best. I think I'm really good, but I'm not thinking I'm the best. I can learn at every stage. I can improve myself, and just to have this. I forgot what the word is, but it's
Auf Deutsch?
it doesn't matter auf Deutsch. Um, I forgot it in German too, so it's fine.
Okay.
I'm bilingual. But just to be so humble. Now I got it, and to say, yeah, I'm good at this state, and I know what I want to achieve, but I'm able and I'm open to learning something, to be better, to have to make impact for my way, not just expecting something. I just write an email and expect, yeah, a release the next day. It's not the way.
I got a question for
I
you.
always call it the extra mile,
Yeah.
and no matter if it's here in our music business or anything like that,
Everywhere.
if you want extreme results, you also have to work extreme for that. I
Yeah.
mean, no matter if it's like in the active like production process when you write tracks or songs or anything like that, it's Dan and I, we know this very well, Rick also, and Maria, regarding when you want to build something up
Totally.
that is different to what is there, what is the average. It's a lot of effort and passion and all that, that needs to go into this to be recognizable. I got my track stack tracks here, whatever, 20, 25, 30, I would say a week at the moment. But then I also have 500 promo emails that I'm getting, per week, roughly. Plus, of course, I'm looking on other platforms for music. I have a huge network of like my dear colleagues and the guys I respect a lot. Obviously, their music. I'm curious about having some exclusives, some unknown stuff that I can play in my sets, etc., etc. It's a lot of music I'm listening to, and I very honest also. Also, look what you said is like, someone's complaining when someone's only listening a few seconds of a track. I have to have a system when I listen to music. Also, this is very personal, how I receive, how I get the music. Sometimes it really is 3-4 seconds is enough. Because then I hear kind of like a preset image of the first loop. And if it doesn't connect immediately, I step to the next track. I cannot
100%.
wait another 3-4 minutes, blah, blah, blah. It's like, pop, 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 no, frame, totally framed. It's like, sounds like everything else, next. It's like you have to have a system, and it's not even offending towards the artist. It's just like trying to be effective. Yeah.
It goes back.
Please.
Sorry, brother. It goes back to what Catherine just said then, and this is something that, I mean, I would say you guys are in more of the underground scene. So I would say people in your scene have a pure intention. In the majority of the genres that I've worked with in Trackstack, I've dealt with a lot of people, and there is just a large amount of ego, like just way too much. It's just ridiculous at this point.
Narcissism.
It's ridiculous. Like I've had, and at the end of the day, if you as a human being have that big of an expectation, like you expect a touring DJ to give you more of their time, that is ridiculous. Like when I saw that reel, I was so confused because I'm like, you have literally made a track and you're expecting a stranger to give you the more of their time. And then because they didn't give you a certain amount of their time that you thought you expected, now you're on Instagram complaining about it. It's so strange. But that's the world we live in. Like I think what you guys are doing really, really well at Suru is you're kind of helping artists just check in with their intention. This is something I've been trying to explore more with my own artist journey is like, do you have a pure intention with what you're making? Do you have a pure intention with your artist career? Because that's what's going to always give you something to lean on when you do get rejected or people do ghost you. So if you believe in your music and you're doing it to serve people and serve with your art, with your music, that's all you can do. And eventually the right people will resonate with it and you'll get signed and you'll get support or whatever. But if you just like, someone please listen to my tracks and why is this person not listening to my track? Fuck them.
Also receiving messages like, I think this is perfect for you to release on your label. Or, and then you're like, well, I'm really sorry. Thank you so much for sending it. It's really great production, but it's not going to fit in. I think you're wrong. You get replies saying, no, actually, I think you're wrong. It's really perfect for your label. And you're like, but why? Why are you saying, can I just go back to Catherine's point quickly? because Katrin said something really important, which is about people wanting to be famous.
Mm.
And what does that mean, right? Is fame being successful to be playing on main stages and blah blah blah, or is fame having a lot of people respecting your art and your music? And I think that's a very big difference
Yeah.
between how the music industry is perceived now. Is there's a lot of people that want to be famous more than wanting to be outstanding artists that
Yeah.
stick out. You know, they're famous because they're fucking brilliant. They're
Yeah.
not because they're in a clown outfit, uh, you know, blowing up
Dancing in the
confetti bombs. And I'm not going to go there. We could talk
No,
hours
don't.
about that. But you know,
I
what
think
is,
Rick, sorry,
yeah, Rick.
I think Rick had a question before. I
Yeah,
just wanted to
sorry, just wanted to finish that
go
bit
back
off
to.
there.
Sorry.
Yeah. No tits out for the DJing, Dan, please.
Exactly.
Keep it just.
Hang on a minute.
No. No, I had a question for you, Luke. Back a few years ago when I first started releasing music and I was still around people that were, there was a concern that don't like shotgun out your music to loads of labels. Do you know what I mean? Pick a label and be patient because other labels are like, oh, they've just sent it to everybody. They must not really want to be signed by us. So, but the track stack approach is kind of not shotgun exactly. It's you want to be more targeted if you're actually with a bit of a brain. I'm not going to send stuff to Dan for Elevate that's just some that isn't Elevate stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So how, you were kind of saying, yeah, you've got to get it out to like everywhere and someone might. I get that, but our labels and they're now looking at it differently, or
The way that, so when I say get it out to everywhere, I was using that in the kind of angle of output streams. So let's just say Trackstack is a stream. My approach to and what we prescribe at Trackstack with like sending strategy for DJs and labels, and this is something I would recommend to everyone on this call on your sending journey, is you want to select maybe 10 to 15 labels and DJs that you want to build a relationship with. And these are the people, labels and DJs that you've studied, you're actively chatting to them on Instagram or social media. You're engaging with the brand and them as a label or an artist. You're sending the music consistently. You're showing up in their inbox maybe once a month, sending 2 or 3 tracks a month, or not blasting them 10 tracks a week. Just gently building that relationship, and 10 to 15 of those people labels, and just do that at scale consistently. What Dan said at the beginning of the call of consistency is building a relationship consistently. And obviously, I would say that the most important thing with this entire call is if your product is shit, it doesn't make a difference how nice of a person you are and how good your marketing strategy is. If the tracks are not good enough and they don't compete with what Timo said about being extraordinary or having music that is special and makes someone resonate, then yeah, you can do all the marketing in the world and it's never gonna shine through. So yeah, I would say, to answer your question, maybe 10 to 15 people, labels that you want to really target over time.
And Luke, one question was also from Laurent in the chat earlier, and sorry, then Andreas, but he asked how to find the right label, specifically
Okay.
that question.
So, in terms, I'm not sure if any of you guys have like trackstack subscriptions or if you've been inside the product and looked at it, but inside of maybe we should do like a demo at some point with you guys. That'd be pretty good. So inside of Inbox, when you go to Discover, you can choose, there's multiple filter tabs. So you can filter by genre, you can filter by turnaround time, you can filter by like let's say they listen. Some people will just listen once a month. So if you want like a fast response, you can select that as a filter. You can filter by either personal, label, filter by curator, and then once you, let's say for you guys, you choose a genre, you choose label, and then you're going to see all the labels on Trackstack. And then what you would want to do is this would be an exercise you do maybe on a weekend or Sunday. You would just have your track stack open on one page. You'd have maybe like all the social media channels, Beatport, and then you would just copy and paste that label into those different tabs. So you Beatport, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and just look at them and say like, could I see myself being here, or could I see myself getting signed to this? Listen to some of a big one obviously is listen to the previous releases and just see like, do I want to be signed to this label, or even like, if you have had previous signings before, they may not be in your best interest to sign to like a smaller label, for example. But let's say you want to, if you've been signed to a mid-tier label, you want to get signed to another mid-tier label. That's obviously part of your research, so it's subjective to everyone and where you are in your journey. But yeah, there are filtering mechanisms inside of TrackStack to filter those labels for you.
Are they suggestive, Luke? Out of interest.
There
I mean,
is
if you said I like whatever, if I like Crosstown Rebels, I would like to be on this label, this label, this label. Does it then say, well, we could recommend similar labels?
we have a feature called Inbox Match now, which is just recently released. So let's say you did do that. Let's say you have your library, you've got Pig&Dan's latest track in your library, and you send that out, and then you search whatever label. When you type that label in, there's an Inbox Match button above it. You just press Inbox Match, and then that will bring up other suggested label or just other suggested inboxes that are relevant to that.
Brilliant.
But yeah. But I would I'm sitting there saying like use TrackStack. That's 50% of this. You should also be doing your independent research online on social media, Beatport, and just because some labels and DJs may not be on TrackStack. So inside of TrackStack, if you want to keep everything in one place and you don't want to keep sending out SoundCloud links and stuff, in the pro version of TrackStack, you're able to send public and private links from your inbox, your library. So if you upload all your tracks once, they're there then indefinitely. You just go to your track, press share public or private link, and then you share that link. So everything is always coming back to your tracks. Like you don't have emails and SoundCloud links and bits and bobs everywhere.
It's interesting because Laurent and I have been talking about this subject together after I was working with him on some of the tracks he's been doing, which are brilliant. But we were talking about where do they belong? It's hard because, okay, yeah, I could write to Mark Knight and say, hey, I think these would be great on the label as a favor to Laurent. But I don't know because there's so many labels in those genres that I'm not familiar with. To have TrackStack giving me that information is paramount to helping people find the best places to source where to send their demos. Or, I mean, they're not demos anymore, right? They're tracks, finished tracks. But like for somebody like Laurent, it's so important if he puts in a label that he thinks would work, then to have the opportunity to read a list of other labels that match that specific
Yeah,
kind of sound, I think is amazing. I mean, that's such a big plus
yeah,
for somebody like Laurent or myself or anybody that's
yeah.
on TrackStack.
It should be part of your strategy and your like personal like homework. You could say if you are going to take this seriously, like maybe just dedicate a Sunday, maybe on just one Sunday a month to just have an exercise where you spend a few hours just like studying labels. You can do that. You can do a portion of that on TrackStack, and then you can also go to, let's say you see some recommendations or a label you've never heard of. Maybe you check that out on Beatport. You listen to some recent releases. I'm not sure if Beatport suggests similar labels if you go on there, and it would be ideal if it did. But maybe try and see if you could take what you get from TrackStack, put it into AI, maybe Claude AI, and say, could you recommend other similar labels to this list of labels? Obviously, the more information you give it, the better. And then really, really give it some in-depth description into what sound you're making, and just let the AI do the work for you. And then obviously the next step would be then proofing its results, seeing if these suggestions it gives you are actually applicable to you. But yeah, 10 to 15 labels and DJs you want to build a relationship with. That's the first step I would recommend for everyone.
Thanks, Luke. I'm aware of your time, but I wanted to also just take Andreas' question, perhaps, and
Yeah.
if that's
I
okay.
have.
We can.
What would you-
I can make it quick. It would be super
Sorry,
interesting. How like a label inbox look like? I mean, I'm just imagining whatever label Desolat, for example. You know, he gets like I don't know whatever 1,000 demos a week or whatever it is. The inbox is basically just a stream of WAV files, or what is it? Is it like do you get as a label more information than just a track, or what? How does it look like?
I'm trying to think if I can show you. Let me just share my screen and show you what the inbox workflow will look like. I've lost this call. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oops.
Sorry, I'm
Anyone?
looking. It looks different here than what it was before. Screen. Trying to open it up for you. It should be
No worries.
simple.
It's like I'm still like on this side when you run a label like for example Desolat. They are not releasing so much music, maybe once a month, maybe even just every 2 months. I don't know. Getting tons of demos. But he has a huge crew, you know, lots of artists sending music also outside of Trackstack. So in my understanding, he goes to Trackstack when he is actively looking for music. But is
Yeah.
he actually looking for music, or is he just looking for music to play in his sets, or what is the, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's such an interesting point to say that because like there's so many variables that are way outside of our like control. So obviously there is like the network component of it,
yeah,
where you see this in a lot of these big crews, like a lot of these veteran guys, they just send tracks amongst themselves and all just promote their own music and just fuck everybody else. Like we're all boys and we'll all just like sign our friends' stuff and just promote it. You see that a lot. Going to Trackstack for your sets is a big one. We see this a lot with Jamie Jones, for example. He if he gets music that he plays in his sets and the tracks like go off or they blow up or whatever on the dance floor, he's more inclined then to think about potentially signing them. With Jamie, another example, he because of Trackstack, it allowed him to open new labels. So this is something as well that is something that one of the biggest selling points to labels or to DJs with personal brands is it allowed Jamie to open Paradise, one of his side sister labels, because of the volume that he was getting through Trackstack. So then he was able to be like, okay, I have all this volume now. I can now start to like compartmentalize this into different, kind of subgenres. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, it's a bit of both. There's so much music, and it's hard to say like what makes someone decide to sign a track. It's just go on down.
Just to add to that, I think that that's really relevant to a lot of DJs who own labels. Is again, it's back to if it's outstanding, then you've got a really good chance because that is so true. If I get a load of demos and I go and play them and they go off, like the crowd really react, it resonates with people. Of course, you're more likely to go and sign it, not because you want to make money from it, because it's resonating with the people who follow what you do. So it's again down to quality of music and making the best music you can, because if that artist is a DJ, oh, I've just got trackstack. Hello. If they are DJ and they think the music's outstanding after playing it, who cares? I mean, as long as they feel it's outstanding at some point, they're going to come back and write to you. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I think going back to what you said earlier, Dan, I think everyone should really take this from this call is like what you're making is probably it is the most important thing. What you're putting out to people, if the quality is competitive, then obviously you're going to get the return on investment. But yeah,
Eventually, it doesn't happen
yeah,
overnight,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah, eventually.
It's a lot of love and tears and commitment, starving, all that stuff. It's not an easy, there's no stairs to success, only the no elevator to success, only the stairs. Excuse me, went wrong way around there.
Okay, I think it was Andreas wanted a
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just what a typical inbox would look like. So let's say this is I don't know. Let's say this is Jamie Jones's workspace, and he would have his labels down here. So you have Jamie Jones personal brand, he'd have Hot Creations, he'd have Paradise, and each one of these is an inbox. So this is just my personal inbox. So he would click onto Paradise, and it would be Paradise Records, and then he would just have like thousands of tracks in here, a never-ending list. You can filter them, etc. So he would, just press play, and then he'd get a typical play, and then it's just a quick yes or no, next, yes or no, next, yes or no. So, and then obviously the person that sent this would receive a submission that is just like Jamie Jones declined your track. It's not for me. And then it's just that is scale basically. But yeah,
Okay, awesome.
I did make a list of just like rapid fire practical takeaways that you could all just take notes on, just to leave you with before I go. So there's the subheadings are what labels are actually listening for, when not to send, the reality of the demo process, and what artists get wrong, and then how to stand out. So I'm just gonna just like quickly just read some of these, and if anyone wants to like just chime in on any I'm not going to read the exact like in depth of the bullet point. I'll just read what the bullet point is because it speaks for itself. So we'll start with what labels are actually listening for. I'll say it slowly, so if you want to take notes, you can just quickly write them down. So what labels are actually listening for? The first 10 seconds matter most. So similar to what Timo said, everyone has the process. If they're receiving thousands of tracks a month, you probably only got to get a few bars if you track listen to. And if we're making loop-based music, that's going to be a few seconds. So, make sure the groove and the hook and the riff, and just try to think about that when you're sending. Sonic identity over perfection, consistency in your catalog, professional sound quality, and then relevance to the label's sound. So that's what they're listening for.
Uniqueness, I would add definitely uniqueness, because if no, it can be quirky, it doesn't need to be perfect, but if there is an aesthetic or a style recognizable, that is a lot. This appeals a lot to me. It doesn't need to be the perfect production, because on the perfection of production, this is all you can work on that, blah blah blah, advanced blah blah blah. For me, most importantly, it's about the creative part. I mean, when we said like also 10 seconds listening and so on, for me it's very easy when I hear an interesting loop, no matter what music style, an interesting loop, an interesting basic loop, can be minimal, can be anything, but an interesting loop, a well done thing. I hear this, I recognize, my instinct tells me immediately, oh, I have to listen more of the track. If it's all 100% predictable from the beginning on already, okay, yeah. Well, it's uniqueness. And I mean, I'm working every day with our members and so on and so on. So I get a myriad of music, and everything that is unique appeals to me. There's my friend Alex, very great example, amazing ideas. So far, not a good producer yet, but this is something he will eventually learn. But it's about, I recognize this talent there. I recognize the this is what I'm looking for with everything. If it's the promos, if it's the demos, or if it's people I meet, this is, I'm hooked to something that is recognizable, no matter what it is, no matter what music style.
There's an interesting add-on to that, actually, Timo, is I was talking to Plex about what he looks out for in demos. And the funny thing is, he usually only signs tracks that don't start with beats. It's really weird.
Okay.
He signs tracks that musically grab him immediately. So It comes in with something that invites you in immediately. I don't know if I'm very good at making that music or Pig and I are, but it was an interesting outlook from Eric because we sent him demos and he was like, "Yeah, but there's a beat at the start." And I said, "Well, it's for a DJ to mix. Obviously, there is something musical." But he was like, "No, man, I want something that grabs me musically from the first second." So that's a completely different outlook on it. But it is true that you've got to have something unique from the very first get-go, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this comes down to the market's like sophistication and saturation is, if you can stand out in a crowded market by making, your sounds unique and quirky and just pushing boundaries at the end of the day. I think that's what good art is just boundary pushing in any industry. It's the stuff that you look at, you're like, well, I can't put that in a box. So yeah, and this is another thing. If you are making music and you don't know where to send it to labels, you don't know what label to send it to, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. We all think I need a label to validate my music, but if you don't know where to send it and you believe in it, just try to market yourself. There was a question here just from Rob. I'll just touch on. Is there an ability in Trackstack to highlight the best 10 to 15-second option on the track or for the DJ label? This is a great question. So we're working on a feature where you can add like a red line when you send the demo to like a marker point where you just like listen to around this section. So when the person listens, they're like, you're giving them a suggestion where to kind of start from, which is, to answer that. I mean, we couldn't really get them to commit to listening to 10 to 15 seconds. And also with the problem we had where people were complaining about someone listening to like only a second or two of the track, we've adjusted that now so you have like a heat map. So you can, when your track gets listened to, you can see like a faded heat map of where around it was listened to. Just so obviously people don't get too disheartened. But yeah, in terms of the next takeaways, so I think it was when not to send. So when you're sending to 50 labels at once, like just spraying and praying, probably want to avoid that. When the track isn't finished, so if you're hoping to get feedback or you're unsure if the loop's finished or you're unsure if it's arranged properly, don't send it. If you haven't done a proper mix down, this is one of the biggest complaints we see quite often actually with labels and DJs, and this just shows the kind of quality I believe probably most of you on this call have been producing for a while, but you have to realize a lot of people haven't. So people that they just make the first few tracks and think I'm gonna fucking get signed, and then they send it, and then it's not even been mastered. It's like you can see the waveform. If a DJ or a label looks at a waveform and it's just like it's not being compressed, it's not limited, the LUFSs are not high enough, it's just going to get just skipped on. So mix down is really important. And also when you have no follow-up plan, this is something that I think we all kind of miss when it comes to sending. There's nothing needy about following up with a label that you want to build a relationship with. Like if you're doing it correctly in the right way and you're being respectful. Like what I said earlier about, you providing value first and, showing that you actually give a shit about them and the label and the artist. Like if you follow up respectfully, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think everyone should. And then lastly, I believe it was when you haven't researched the label. So this is similar to what Dan was saying, where people it's just been receiving random stuff that is just not relevant whatsoever. This is another huge one. Just people sending music. There's one guy, and I won't say his name, but he literally I don't know how he's figured out a way. He just sends music to everyone. He just sends his track to everyone. We've had to like ban his account because he was just mass sending to everyone. Afro house track to like deep house or techno or whatever. So yeah, avoid that. And
I
then
mean, it's for me now, also being in the position as an A&R for many years and blah blah blah, and also like trying to send I never ever send something that is not the best possible product, because the attention span you have exactly in that second when someone's finally listening to your track. When you send something, yeah, you have to imagine, it's like, then the mastering is not there and the mix down needs to be done. No one's listening, when no one's listening a second time, a third time, and it's following your development process of the track. So it's like, I appreciate when there is something that is great, that it's also, that it's sounding great, that it's just like that it's, it's, the best possible thing you have, only then, it's, as I say, the attention span, I don't give the same attention, or very rarely, like for a second listen or a third listen. It's like, there's someone I don't know, shoots it out and it bangs right bullseye, happy days. Yeah. And it's possible. But yeah, the strongest recommendation: never send anything that's work in progress. Never send anything that's the best picture of yourself, because you only have this one shot. And we're talking about electronic labels, but then you're doing bigger productions and you're doing like pop or alternative or something like that, then it's even more important to have like, boom, it just, the maximum you're able to do, the maximum you have to smack in their face first try. That's it.
Yeah, and then just some expectations on the demo process. So what I mentioned before about the volume is overwhelming. It's something we should all be aware of, the volume that these labels and DJs are receiving. Another one, and this is something I've learned personally from sending out, or from doing the collaborations with a lot of A&Rs, is that social metrics don't override quality. It's something, it's very easy for us all to fall into this idea that, you need to have loads of Instagram followers to be successful. I know that's what it looks like from the outside in, at the outside looking in, but from a lot of the labels that I've spoken to, and even seeing them back that up with truth, the music is now starting to shine through. So don't be disheartened. Rejection isn't personal, which is a big one. And then relationships matter more than cold sends. So what I mentioned earlier, just make sure you're prioritizing the relationship building. And then I have 3 more subheadings. So what artists get wrong: thinking that production quality doesn't matter. Just what Timo just said then, it's really important to make
better big time.
Yeah, your product is, it is an extension of you and it's speaking on behalf of you.
It's your business card. It's your business card. When the business card looks shit already, somehow it's like, because you just didn't prepare it properly, it's not a good view.
Yeah. And then also not knowing your own sound. I know that's like a journey, and I think that's what you guys are working with Suru on, and what Suru is doing well is giving you this kind of guidance on your own sound and kind of actualizing that, because I know it's a long journey. Expecting instant responses. This is, going back to the ego conversation we had earlier. This isn't about you. You're not special. This is about being of service and putting music out. And then ignoring the label's recent releases, which is just, similar to what Dan just said earlier, where people are just sending for the validation component of just being supported and signed. They don't give a shit about the label. And then how to stand out. You want to build a body of work first. This is something I actually got from a artist management consultation I paid for. He was saying that because of how saturated and sophisticated the market is nowadays, it's more strategic for you to build and work in batches when it comes to your productions and sending out in batches. So this can be to labels and DJs. When you're thinking about your productions, think about how you can produce a bunch of tracks, finish the best ones, send them out, and just do that consistently. So if a label does come to you and they like a track, you've got a body of work behind you, because we've all seen it before where people just have a one-hit wonder and then they just don't have the body of work behind them to back up future releases. So you don't want to fall into that trap. You want to stand out by knowing where you fit, and this goes back to doing the research with other DJs and labels, trying to figure out where you can fit into that. Be professional in your communication, engage with the label before sending, and then use platforms like Trackstack, Beatport, TrackSource, 1001 track list. Just do your research into what the DJs are playing in their sets, what the labels are signing, the quality, and then just ask yourself, do I fit into this? And is my music relevant to where I'm sending? If it isn't, then move on. And then lastly, the philosophy behind sending. Labels are looking for projects, not singles. The music comes first always. Trust your instincts over trends. That's a big one. We've all seen the trends popping up nowadays, and the people that do capitalize on that trend just get forgotten about within a year. And community and culture matter. So that's I think something that's been lost in electronic music is just culture and community. So you can, if you know that it's going into ego, you can position yourself and stand out by trying to create community, trying to provide value, trying to, appreciate people's cultures and just connect with people in that way. And you're just going to build a stronger network and better relationship.
Encourage each other. I mean, this is what we practically do every day already. Encourage each other in thoughts, in confidence also to your product, in confidence to your artistry, and so on. I mean, this is what we practically do every day. Then, I mean, this is, and we see the difference. We see the difference. And just as a little example, I mean, we have a small round here, but I mean, there is life-changing developments already due to the community. Yeah, we're watching that, and really life-changing, from the confidence in your artistry, the confidence in, hey, I'm not strange, I'm an artist, I'm particular, I'm unique, and this is something that shouldn't be scary. That should be, this is, hey, you have that, what you have, and we help you, polishing it out, getting the confidence. I always say, listen to your instinct. When your instinct tells you it's the right thing, then you're on the right path. That's it. Very simple. Always follow, most importantly, your artistry, your instinct, and so on. Eventually, might not fit what you think where it fits, but I mean, Laurent was just writing that. Be patient. Patience is one of the things too. It's like you said, as in the example, it's like, I mean, I'm a very busy man here. I do 70, 80 hours a week easily. And, I'm not listening every day, but I try to catch up, every 3-4 days with all this stuff, because I love to find the diamond. Why am I listening to 500 promo emails a week? And I know 90%, 95% is not interesting for me. I want to find the diamond. This is possibly, my old school roots when I was in the record store back in the days, and was trying to find this vinyl that no one else has, and this little gem that I can drop in my sets that no one knows, and that is just like this certain particular impact, and so on and so on. I still love this. I mean, but that's me. I love this. I love to dig. I still love to dig, but I also have to set priorities. Everything that's standard pretty much is not interesting for me, because I'm not looking for standard. I'm looking for what's above that.
Thank you so much, Luke, for coming today. And I also know that Trackstack is coming to the retreat. Cameron and George and Harry will be joining. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm the marketing guy. Cameron and George, the way that they speak about Trackstack and the kind of ecosystem of the electronic music industry, they can articulate way better than I can, with just the shifts, and very similar to what Dan and Timo have been speaking about, the problems that they have in the industry. Like, they're very, very aware of it. They've spoken to way more labels and DJs. So if you do get a chance to go and speak to those guys at the retreat, like, they're going to give you a way bigger insight than, obviously, I'm just like on the surface kind of, I'm not like really in the weeds on the calls with when problem solving with those guys. But yeah, highly recommend you can get some insight from them. And then you also have Harry there. Harry is the kind of, I would say, the relationship builder of Trackstack. So all the VIPs that, kind of send a lot of traffic to Trackstack, they require a certain personality to kind of maneuver with. And Harry, I would say, has probably the warmest personality inside of Trackstack. He's just very approachable and relatable.
Yeah, he's
And
a super nice guy. Yes.
yeah, he's top tier. And the thing that I love about Harry, obviously, you know, we all have ego and we all have a component of ego, but Harry will speak to a superstar exactly the same as he would speak to a beginner. And I think that's really important. And if you do get to speak to him about, well, the next call I think you guys are going to have, I think on the 30th,
Yeah.
Harry will be doing a talk about that. So I want to make a rough kind of flow for the conversation for him. So it'll be similar to this, but the topic of conversation will be about what you do after you've sent the track. So I've touched on it briefly, but it's really important that once you've sent the track, you are proactively building relationships. I'll just give you an example from my own personal experience. I've had like 2 tracks shortlisted recently from like mid-tier DJs, and I just sent them a screenshot to their Instagram and followed them, and then they follow me back, and we create a connection. We have like a back and forth dialogue. So that's a DJ that is like me, that is further ahead in their career, that I've now connected with and have an open thread. Like that's an opportunity that could go anywhere, and it's your job to do that consistently with as many people as you can. And Harry will be guiding you on that.
I mean, I'm personally looking forward when we do this retreat because Cameron's also is going to be a student in the whole week. So in the end of the day, I mean, as a founder of Trackstack, obviously, you know, there's a lot of like knowledge, a lot of like things to learn from. And I see us already, you know, sitting not just in the evenings, you know, and just learning a lot about the infrastructure of the whole music business, like from so many different sides. We're looking forward to that because, yeah, beside the workshop and so on, but it's like, you know, it's for me, it's gold. Also, as a coach on the retreat, I know, you know, the knowledge that I am going to learn in this week. I'm really looking forward to that because it only makes me also better in that what I'm trying to kind of like, you know, teach, coach, a mentor or whatever you call it. You know, it's a never-ending learning process, and also the different kind of perspectives and characters also is very, very interesting. Yeah, just my little piece. Yeah,
Wow.
really looking forward to that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thanks so much, Luke. And yeah, we're looking forward to the call next week as well. And yeah,
beautiful.
for the retreat. Cool.
Okay. If you have any questions, guys, I'm not sure if you're able to, I don't know if I can like somehow get into the Suru community to like, if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to like just answer. I don't know how I could get to, if that's possible, just like put me somewhere and I could just reply to people. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Laurent,
thanks, Laurent.
And Laurent, very quickly, let's catch up with Dan later if you have time. Let us know, and then you know we can jump on a separate call also. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks,
everybody.
Cool.
Nice one, Luke.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you.
everyone
Have a good
for
evening.
coming.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Everyone for coming. Thanks, Andreas, Elisabeth. Very nice to meet you, Elisabeth. Thanks, Luke.
Katrin.
And yeah, we got to catch up next week. So we got to have a lot more of those particular workshops, etc., etc. So yeah,
amazing. I'll send out the invite today. So
no worries. I'll make a rough flow and I'll send it in the Slack channel.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.